Welcome to BlockTV, and thanks for joining us. I'm Lauren Izzo. This is Fireside Chat, where we examine some of the leading projects in the crypto blockchain ecosystem. FunFair is aiming to set the standard in the growing blockchain gaming space. It wants to do so with a premium portfolio of provably fair games and decades of gaming experience. We have with us today Jez San, who was awarded the Order of the British Empire for services to the computer games industry and is also one of the founders of FunFair. Jez, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Lauren.
Now, before we go into what FunFair is doing right now, why don't you tell us how FunFair started and what your vision was when it began?
Sure. So my background, as you mentioned, is 20 plus years in the computer games world and then 10 plus years in the online gaming world. And we say online gaming is gaming for real money, like casino gaming and poker and so on. And we noticed that when you meet people, they are scared to play an online casino, some of them. Some of them will tell you that they don't trust to leave their money in an online casino because they don't know whose it is, they don't know if they'll get it back easily. Some people say that the games aren't fair or that they don't trust that the games are fair. And so we looked around and tried to find a solution for that, and blockchain and smart contract technology enabled us to create a piece of technology and a platform that allows people to play fair games and allows people to not have to trust the casino that they're playing on and protects their money by not taking custody of it. So we created a lot of technology that solves those problems using blockchain.
Well, the company has not existed for that long, but you've evolved a lot. Why don't you take us through that evolution a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So the company is probably 2.5 years old. So that actually makes it quite ancient in terms of blockchain companies, because several of them are only months or years old. And the evolution was we started building the prototype of the technology. We built some slot machine games first that ran on the blockchain. Then we discovered the scaling problem, which plagues all blockchain projects, which is that blockchains, although they deliver trust or trustless capability, they run very slowly and much slower than you want for interactive experiences. People want to have fun when they're playing games. They don't just want to do it trustlessly or non-custodially. So we had to invent our own layer 2 scaling technology, which we call Fate channels, which are an offshoot of a class of scaling called state channels. And these allow us to get all the benefits of trustless execution on the blockchain, but while running really fast and very inexpensively off-chain.
All right, so we're understanding a little bit more about how your technology works, but how does it benefit all parties?
So it benefits, there are multiple different groups of parties in the gaming ecosystem. So there's the players, of course, lots of hopefully players. There's the casinos. There's the affiliates, who are the marketing people who find players and send them to the casino. And then there's the game developers who create the actual experiences, the games themselves. And so we have built a technology that uses the blockchain to fairly compensate all of them, ensure that the ground rules are safe and fair, ensure that the player's money is not held in the custody of the casino, lowers the cost of operating casinos for the casino operators, fairly rewards the game developer for creating the games, and pays the affiliate for doing the marketing and finding the players. And we do all of that automatically in real time using this state channel technology that we call Fate channels.
So onboarding in blockchain is a known issue. How are you aiming to bring Web 2.0 usability to 3.0 apps?
That's a great question. Yes, as we have all noticed, it's very difficult for new users to acclimatize and get onboarded into Web3 applications. These are the decentralized apps, or dApps as we now call them. And the main problem stems from the wallets being quite immature and the browsers not supporting Web3 capability. So people have come up with all sorts of solutions. Many of them don't work that well. Even some of the best and most popular wallets, like MetaMask, are difficult for a new user to start. They make the users create a private key and write down a seed phrase of 24 words and write it down on paper and back it up and then type it back in again. It's a mess, and it's a poor experience for a new user. And so a year ago, after we had launched, we discovered this high friction, the onboarding problem, which many companies probably won't discover till they actually launch and go live. And we set about trying to solve it ourselves. We didn't want to wait for the industry to solve it, because the industry was proving very slow at recognizing this problem and solving it. And so to solve that, we created our own wallet, which is unusual because it doesn't need a plugin, it doesn't need a download or an install, and it's not in the App Store. It just runs inside the website, and it does all of the functionality that a user needs to interact with an application, a decentralized application. And it does all of that without any installs, without any plugins, without any downloads, and it's user-friendly. It doesn't ask the user to write down 24 seed phrases or anything like that. So we think this is a game changer, no pun intended, because a user, when they see an advert and they want to click and play a game, the sign-up process looks just like the sign-up process for Netflix or anything else, any other Web 2 application. You just create a user ID, like with your email address and your password, just like you do on every other application on the internet. And then it creates an account for you. It generates the private key locally inside the browser so that it's safe. And it lets you interact with Web3 applications. And it does all of that without taking custody of the player's funds or the user's funds, and without having to install anything, which means it runs on an iPhone, it runs on an iPad, it runs on an Android phone, as well as any of the desktop browsers. So that gives us access to a much larger potential market than we do at present, where we are limited by what the wallet supports.
So what is ahead for FunFair? What can we expect in the next 5 years or so from you guys?
Well, in the next month, we're going to launch what I just described. So we are going to launch it. We said we'd launch it in Q3, and we're really trying hard to do that. And Q3 ends this month. So our short term is get this stuff out and get people using it and start tweaking it and improving it. In the long term, we need to get user adoption. That's the key. That's the key for every application. And to become sustainable as a business, we need plenty of users. That's real customers. And that's something that blockchain applications don't have. You know, the blockchain is something for geeks right now, and we need to make it something for the mass market.
I'm curious to know how FunFair stands up against its competition.
Well, there's different kinds of competition. There's the giant gaming companies that we will one day, compete with. But right now, we're competing in a space where we look very different from the others. We're legal. We have a gaming license. We follow the rules. We do KYC and AML. We make sure that players are not kids, because kids aren't allowed to play gambling games. So we do all the things right, and we try to be well behaved. Many of our peers don't. Many of our peers let kids play, let Americans play, let North Koreans play. I mean, it's the Wild West out there. And so initially, the illegal companies that are anonymous probably have a larger market, because they don't care about who they're letting play. But eventually, we think that the legal, properly regulated, well-behaved companies will outperform. And so we want to be one of those.
Well, I'm not an online gambler, but I might just start now. Jez San, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure, thank you.
And that's all we have time for. Thank you for joining us right here on BlockTV.